Thank you, Colt member number 76. I look kind of stupid there speaking and not being able to be heard. So my apologies, everybody. Greetings. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We're coming at you today to present some material on following trust property when it's confused. Um, and in the meantime, the StreamYard link is down there for anybody that wants to come up and join the panel. I always appreciate it. I need it. I want to be able to do my research as broadly as possible. So I need other opinions and input and commentary to help direct me as well. I'm not always right. I'm not perfect. No one is. So please be sure to come up and join me. In the meantime, hit that like, share, and subscribe button to get this information out there. And we're going to get into it as soon as I get thanks and welcomes down. Cult member 76, Mateo Star Sorcerer, cult member 76 again, King Morpheus. Greetings, people. Anybody else that's out there, feel free to join the chat or the StreamYard link. Like I said, we are welcome to everybody and want some open opinions. And with that, let's get into it. What we're doing today is first we're going to take a look at the very first statement on the right to follow trust property when confused with other property. And this is a law review from the right to follow trust, Harvard Law Review, the right to follow trust property when confused with other property by Samuel Williston. And this was April 15th, 1888. So it's a long-standing premise. The basis of trust law does not change. It always maintains the same structure. Somewhat similarly, the contract law does as well, but within the contract terms and conditions, they can be structured differently. So the contracts themselves under a trust will always change, while the trust itself will remain the same. It's more implicit to the operation of law. And it says, and we're only going to read the first sentence here because it's the basis of what we're going to do with the rest of the code, the U.S. Code, Code of Federal Regulations, and everything that's operating under that public trust. And those codes are contract terms and conditions. And what it says is it is a commonplace of textbooks and cases on trusts that if the trustee converts money or property belonging to the trust and mingles it with other property, the trust is gone. Okay? And that link, all these links are already down in the details section of the YouTube. So they'll be easy to get there for now. If you're in the chat right now, feel free to go down there to details and grab those. Greetings, Derek Sexton. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button, folks. And the next one, remember, I keep telling everybody this is all a military setup, and they're using the fiat paper. Okay, that's where they mingle the property with their fiat military commands or demands. It's known as the UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, and that's literally the battle of the forms. It's all fiat paper, all bonded paper, and it's bonded under the wildlife conservation laws because they have to preserve the trees, conserve the trees under the Paperwork Reduction Act. Now, that's for the paperwork. Okay. The electronic record that's been instituted since 2006 is another record. And what they do is they take the paper record. So every time you fill out an application, it gets entered into an electronic system, electronic record keeping system. And so what they do is you've got the written stuff on the paper, but when you enter it into the computer, sometimes those terms will change. So like on the local courthouse, they have information that they put in as a last name, and the information on the electronic system changes it to a firm name, cutting out the last two letters of the quote last name, Little, and changing it to a firm name, Litt. That's a conversion. And what it's doing is it's converting an a definitive paper bond to a book entry bond. It's still a bond, and they're changing it from a definitive paper bond to an electronic bond. That's all it is. Under that military fiat paper that I was telling you about, under national defense, Title 32 of the Code of Federal Regulations. Code of Federal Regulations, Title 32, is national defense. Other regulations relating to national defense, such as foreign relations, selective service system, another record-keeping system, definitions, and then it has area office. Very simply, it says the Selective Service Office, which is responsible for all administrative and operational support for one or more local boards within its jurisdiction. So when you go to the Board of Commissioners at the county to make a claim or anything, the Selective Service is responsible for all administrative and operational support. Support is synonymous with enforcement. When you want to support a structure, you have to enforce it with its foundation and then the things that go up to its top from the bottom up. Okay. That's selective service through the Social Security Administration under the enumeration at birth, which applies to the Department of Defense, has minimum requirements for birth registration, and includes the Plain Writing Act. Now, under Title 31, we have money and finance, according to the Treasury. Regulations relating to money and finance. Remember the little video I did on finance? Phi means a moral defect, and Nance means Nancy boy, effeminate male. Finance of the beta corporate male. Money is different. Money is the documentation that you use for transfer of property. It's called money banking. Bureau of Fiscal Services or Service. Regulations governing securities held in TreasuryDirect. Okay, first of all, I want to point out that the TreasuryDirect is not the Bureau of Public Debt. If you want to do your set-offs, discharges, and everything, that has to be done through the Bureau of Public Debt through a reversion, or another conversion of the documentation that they have as data elements that are going to convert the credits from the United States or the state to you. So you're going to do some kind of conversion. Whereas TreasuryDirect, the conversion is already done. Like I said, they convert the paper form to the electronic form, and it is for specifically investing in securities. Okay? It's an investment in securities. And again, that's that conversion at the local courthouse where they changed the last name to a firm name, and that's stating that I was investing in that system. I was investing in the security, while the security was made out in my name without my knowledge. Nor was it my knowledge that they were putting me down as a firm, as if though I was an investing agent, a trustee investing in the property by putting the property up as an investment and then hoping I would get a return on it. And technically, a trustee is not supposed to do that. So let's look at this. What is a Treasury Direct registered account? Now, registered means they're the registered agent, just like the Postal Service. I've told you before that if you look under the Postal Service Form 6387, you will see that the United States Postal Service is the registered agent, and the post office, not United States Post Office, but post office, that's an international venue, is the trademark holder. And they hold the trademark for the patented copyright of the Universal Postal Union's documents. The Constitution of the Universal Postal Union is copyrighted through a trademark of the post office, and the United States Postal Service here is a registered agent. Now, the Postal Service of France is another registered agent. Postal Service of Great Britain, another registered agent. The postal services are registered agent, just like what is Treasury Direct? Registered account. That's the registered agent. They're operating as an agent making investments. And they're calling you another agent through that Treasury Direct accounting because of the SSA, Social Security Administration. What they're doing is they're using definitions otherwheres defined. Primary account under A is defined here. Okay. Primary account. The primary account is the account that you establish, wherein you is not highlighted underlined, and it is defined elsewhere in 20 CFR 204.2. I can't remember. It's defined in the employee benefits section. And it says establish when initially opening your Treasury Direct account. Again, that's the Social Security account at the state level, and they only can operate at the state level through the Treasury. Okay, this is Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. Congress shall lay and collect taxes, duties, and imposts. Article 7, Postal Roads. Article 17, needful places and buildings within the states. The needful places and buildings are the banks and government agencies, departments, programs, and stuff like that. So when you're the primary account may contain the following Treasury securities. Individual is defined under person. Person includes an individual, corporation, partnership, LLC, things like that. And it says a primary account for an individual may contain Treasury securities purchased initially opened your account was when an initial purchase would be made as book entry securities. So the purchase was done by paper, and then it was converted and entered as book entry securities that are your personal holdings. So when you fill out an application at that employment, at that McDonald's, you should be getting a copy for your own holding. That's your holding. Do they give you a copy? No. Why not? Certain deceptive forms. Registered in single owner, owner with beneficiary, and primary owner with secondary owner forms of registration. Forms of registration. So your your primary account is the birth certificate at the state level. Then everything that you enter through other forms, certain deceptive forms like the birth or the job application and the driver's license and all those other things, bank accounts where you have to register an automobile, things like that. You have to register for school. You have to register your children for school. So what you're doing in registering your children is you're registering a record. You're not registering the actual being. You're registering a record, a paper document that they are then going to enter into a book entry system in electronic form. gifts of savings bonds that have not yet been delivered, and converted savings bonds that were transferred from the conversion linked account. Conversion linked account, and they were transferred. Now that means somebody mingled the intellectual property with an electronic property through a paper form that was deceiving them. Entities. A primary account for an entity may contain Treasury securities purchased initially as book entry securities registered in the name of the entity. So, what we have here is the Keith Orland Little Social Security account is described as an entity. And that's done through the Social Security SSA 5 application form, wherein they have you sign it and notarize it on the left, and then they continue on with further questions. The questions should all be done before the signature. That's a certain deceptive form. Also, the questions would be deceptive as self. You could, on that SS5, you could never be the self. You have to be the benefactor to the beneficiary if you're going to fill out those forms. Again, that you is definitive. A person who owes a debt to the United States, and a person is considered an entity, an individual, the beneficiary. Yeah. And they're doing it transfers by transfer. A transfer is not a transaction. Transaction is the thing that we do in physical form, and the transfer is the transfer of supposed property from one physical place to another. The next one, remember that conversion is what it's all about. They converted things. Linked account. Here they converted a transaction to a transfer through a conversion of a linked account. Social Security account is the linked account to the Treasury account, and it has a conversion within it. The linked account is an account that is a separate account from your primary account, but is connected to your primary account. So when you go get a bank account, that's your secondary account. It's a linked account, and you are required to use the Social Security number to open that account. So you have to use the primary account. You attach the linked account to the primary account. You use your primary account as a portal to open and access the linked account. Linked accounts include the following. Custom account is an account that is linked to your primary account. You use your primary account as a portal to open access to your custom account. You may informally, not initially, but now informally designate a purpose for the account. For example, vacation fund. I wouldn't call it vacation fund. I would call it vacation trust. Or Johnny's college fund. I wouldn't call it Johnny's college fund. I would call it Johnny's college trust. Purpose is in trust, not in contract. However, the designation as to purpose has no legal effect. The registration of securities held in the custom account determines ownership. Annual purchase limitations include securities held in customs accounts. So now you can create a customs account to purchase annual securities that have limitations. You suppose that birth registration, that birth certificate is a security that you purchase that you can then purchase through a custom account to convert. You as an individual owner, individual means a natural person. Owner, when referring to an individual, is either the single individual named in the registration, the beneficiary, and he or she is named, it is named in the document. You sign on the document. You are the individual owner. When referring to an individual, is either the single individual named in the registration of the security held in single owner form of registration, the first individual named on a security held in the owner with beneficiary form of registration, the first individual named on a security held in the primary owner with secondary owner form of registration, or either individual named on a converted savings bond held in the co-owner form of registration. That co-owner form of registration would be the birth certificate, because the state is the co-owner. When you look at that birth certificate, you're going to see the state of Iowa, and then you'll see your name or the name. That's the co-ownership. The second name is the beneficiary. So the other name would be the trustee. So who's the grantor? The unnamed party, United States. And it's linked to a conversion account, wherein all the conversion happens. When referring to a minor linked account, the owner is the minor, the person named on the document. And that's your name accordingly. When referring to an entity, the owner is the entity. So the Keith Thornton Little in the upper lowercase on the Social Security card, or on public education documents, or on health bills, that's referring to the minor. When it's all caps, it's the entity. So let's look a little bit further. It says you may use your custom account to buy, redeem, and transfer securities. Now, the redeem is a conversion. It's a reversion. They converted, converse. Now you're going to reverse. You go back to the original verse. To buy, redeem, and transfer securities registered in the entity form of registration. So again, look at that birth registration and tell me if that, or that birth certificate, tell me if that doesn't have the all caps name. Can you redeem that? Flip it over, put your terms and conditions on it to redeem it by reversion into proper credit to your account, the trust that is yours. Minor account is an account established by an individual custodian for an individual who has not yet reached the age of 18 years. When you fill out that Social Security application, there is no declaration on the record that you have reached the age of majority. This is what they're looking for. The individual who has not yet reached the age of 18 because he hasn't given notice. Sure, it's in the records and they know it, but the notice hasn't been given. We do not permit an entity to open a minor account. A minor account is linked to the custodian's primary account. A minor account is linked to the custodian's primary account. So if I have custody, what is it that I have custody of? If I'm considered a custodian, a co-owner, then the other co-owner would also be a custodian, meaning they hold something as well in their custody. Why are you holding things you shouldn't be? That Social Security card they sent you, that's the creation of establishment of presumption that you are a custodian operating as a trustee and therefore no longer performing as a, or operating under the condition or behaving under the condition of a benefactor receiving benefits through beneficiary actions or transactions or transfers. A minor account is linked to the custodian's primary account. The minor is the owner of the securities. The minor is not yourself. The minor. is. But the custodian controls the account on behalf of the minor. So if you're a custodian holding that Social Security card, you have control. Quit letting everybody tell you you don't. Quit letting everybody tell you you have to give that Social Security number. No, you do not. If they are requiring that Social Security number, then there's something wrong, because every deposit is known as a foreign deposit. And by them asking for that Social Security number, they are requiring national security information as a foreign entity. That's considering or in consideration of the Trading with the Enemy Act. And they're considering you domestic to them. And therefore, they don't even look at the Trading with the Enemy Act. That's why they ask you for that identification, and you happily give it. The minor is the owner of the securities, but the custodian controls the account on behalf of the minor. See 363.27 for more information about minor accounts. Conversion account means a linked account in TreasuryDirect. So when you go out to that bank and you get that account and it's linked, that's an account in TreasuryDirect, and it's meant for securities investments, and you signed up for it. And you gave them your national agent number to do so without being qualified as a Federal Reserve agent. And then you deposited Federal Reserve notes that are meant to be transfers from one Federal Reserve Bank to another Federal Reserve Bank by Federal Reserve agents and for no other purpose. Oops. Closing an account. If a TreasuryDirect primary account and all associated linked accounts have no holdings and no activity for a period of 2 years, we reserve the right to close the account along with all linked accounts. Now, I just recently had an issue with PayPal. They were trying to tell me I had to have a linked account. They had to link my card to a bank account in order to process the donations that were made on one end so that I could claim them. Otherwise, they would be considered abandoned funds. So I had a little bit of a hard time dealing with them over a period of days, dealing with sales reps that didn't comprehend this linked account. Because when I opened this account for donations approximately 3 years ago, it was because I didn't have the information from my initial PayPal account that I established in 2011 based off a linked account at that time, a U.S. bank account that I had established in 2006. So it was an established account for 5 years as a U.S. bank account, and then I established an initial PayPal account in 2011. And since I couldn't remember all that accounting information when I was creating my new site and everything, and people were telling me they wanted to donate, so I created a new PayPal account. It's still a linked account in PayPal. And that PayPal account that was initially created was established with a linked account through U.S. Bank in one of their accounts. So we have to talk about this in and on stuff as much as possible, because UCC 3-402 tells us that the authorized representative giving an unambiguous signature on the instrument is therefore not liable for the person named in the instrument. And real quick, I want to take a duck down in the chat, tell everybody thank you for stopping by. Timmy Carini, Clayton, thank you much, brother. Donation received and much appreciated. Slippin' Jimmy, greetings. Freedom Grower, Galen, Crazy Horse Lady. Welcome, everybody. Roz Blackwood. Greetings. I hope you're enjoying the informational session as we move on to the next one. You know what? Did I just share that whole thing? No, it was. Well, you got the link down there in case I didn't. My apologies. I'm not the greatest producer. I'm not a producer yet. I'm not a pro at it. So let's look at the next one. This one is, let me decrease the size a little bit here. Title 32 again. We just came out of Title 31, which is money and finance. And now we're back to Title 32, wherein the selective service is responsible for all administration and operations, support to the board in the local, or board with in the jurisdiction of the board in the local area. We're talking about Office of the Secretary of Defense, defense contracting, commercial activities programs. So when you fill out that application, that's a commercial activity, okay? And by presumption, you're performing a commercial activity. Simple as that, okay? Look at these definitions. Commercial activity, the process of evaluating commercial activities for the purpose of determining whether or not a cost comparison will be conducted. So on your end, when you go to that McDonald's to apply for a job, you yourself are making a cost comparison. Is it going to help you pay your bills? That's the cost comparison. And you've been duped into believing that it's going to help you pay your bills and therefore you need a job because you got to pay your bills. You can't pay your bills, folks. You negotiate today. Commercial source, a business or other non-federal activity located in the United States. That United States is just a record. So it's located in the record. So as long as you keep putting those data elements in the record, that job application, that's an application that employer has to report to the IRS, and it's going to go into their records. And they're going to keep another record of it, and they're going to issue it. They're going to issue it to the United States for their record because the United States has an interest in it, and you send it off to the employer or the IRS instead of the United States. You didn't get a copy of that and send it off to the United States and let them know that you are in negotiations with one of their contractors. Its territories and possessions. Its territories. Remember that person, that he or she? It's not a he or she, it's an it. It's an it. Its possession, the District of Columbia or Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, that provides a commercial product or service. So anytime you walk into any place that has anything you didn't make or they didn't make themselves, or are providing some service that you think you can't provide for yourself, that's a commercial activity. And you're involving yourself in it as the source. It's called, agricultural resource. You're the source, and they're going to resource it. They're going to take it from you and transfer it from you to here, and then they're going to tell you, no, this is the source. This is where it came from. So again, you're the benefactor giving to the beneficiary, and then they say you can't violate the beneficiary and that you're the trustee. Conversion to contract. This is the conversion we're talking about. We're not talking about conversion of money to paper. It's the conversion to contract. The changeover of a commercial activity from performance by Department of Defense personnel to performance under contract by a commercial source. So when you fill out that SS5, yep, that's the conversion to contract. You change your source at the age of 18 from being agricultural to a contractor. Conversion to in-house. The changeover of a commercial activity from performance under contract to performance by Department of Defense personnel. So when you fill out the SSA 5 under enumeration at birth, you were considered at birth to be a resident under definition of Department of Defense personnel. Department of Defense directives, 5 USC 301, departmental regulations, period. And that's the one that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. It lists the requirements of birth registration. It's applicable to the Department of Defense, and it has to be in plain writing, concise and comprehensive. Core logistics. Core logistics. Remember, core, that's the source. Source logistics. Core logistics. Logistics. Statistics. They are logged at the state. Call up the state insurance commissioner and ask him what he has in his log. Ask him if it's statistically proven. Those functions identified as core logistics activities pursuant to Section 307 of Public Law 98-525 and Section 1231 of Public Law 99-145, codified at Section 2464, Title 10. Title 10, 2464. No, I had to check something, folks. Okay. That are necessary to maintain a logistics capability, capacity, capitalist. Okay. They're capitalizing on that minor account and converting it to contracts through book entry securities, because they convert the paperwork to a book entry security through the primary account, capitalizing on it, including personnel, equipment, and facilities. Persons, places, and things. Persons and places and things, including persons, things, and places. Are you catching on? That are necessary to maintain a logistics capability, the nouns. Why are you operating as a noun? I keep telling everybody I am not a noun. I am a verb. I am an act of God with every breath I take. To ensure a ready and controlled source of technical Now I'm having problems with, there we go, my cursor. Okay, source. To ensure ready and controlled source. Remember, I told you, if you're the custody, if you've got the card in custody, you're one of the custodians, and the custodians have control, and you're, as custodian with control, you're also the source of technical competence, and you are not competent according to the technicalities of the nouns, the persons, places, and things. If you consider yourself a noun, then you are incompetent. You are not competent technically. Okay? And resources necessary to ensure effective and timely response. So they're going to resource it for effective and timely responses to mobilize national defense contingency situations and other emergency requirements. Everything has to be done under emergency for requirements. Anything that's a requirement has to be an emergency. Merge. Merge. It's a merger. What does E stand for? It stands for taking away. So if they're going to take away your merger with him for an emergency, they're going to merger you with that document. As long as you keep believing that. Cost comparison with par I son. With par I son. With par is on. Are you signing on the document? Are you partaking on the document? And if so, is it done as the son? The process of developing an estimate, estimate, sty as in standing, mate, the standing mate without a standing mate of the cost of performance of a commercial activity by Department of Defense employees. No one else. Cost comparison is the process of developing an estimate of cost of performance of a commercial activity by Department of Defense employees. So that cost comparison for the minimum wage was done by a defense employee. Department of Defense employee made the cost comparison for the commercial performance at minimum wage, a per diem cut down to hours, HOURS, and not HORUS, the God of darkness, the God of night. You have a daytime job, and they go by the hours of the day. Direct conversion. Conversion to contract performance of an in-house commercial activity based on a simplified cost comparison, or the conversion of an in-house commercial activity performed exclusively by military personnel. So when you give them a directive under the Trading with Enemies Act 4305 to full acquittance and discharge wherein no person shall be held liable in any court. That's the directing of the conversion of cost comparison through the core logistics that was entered through the Bureau of Vital Statistics in error, and it was converted in-house. Okay, it converted it from my house or his house, the house of David, and he laid the key upon my shoulder, and where I shall open and no one shall shut, and I shall shut and no one shall open. So when I opened that bank account, U.S. bank account, and I linked a PayPal account by opening a PayPal account, no one else is supposed to be able to shut that. So when I told him to open it back up, he had to open it back up. And then as soon as he did, in the now time, right now before my eyes, I was watching my PayPal account and the transfer happened. Boom. All of a sudden it went up a few $100s, showing that they were holding those funds and they were actually trust property. Core logistics, those functions identified as core logistics activities. And that's all of these. Commercial activity from a commercial source, conversion to a contract, conversion to in-house. Those are the core logistics, and it happens as soon as you're born through enumeration at birth, entering you as a resident, a resident. You moved from one house to their house. Cost comparison, direct conversion, displaced Department of Defense employee, any DoD employee affected by conversion to contract operation, including such actions as job elimination or grade reduction. Remember your education, what grade did you graduate? It includes both employees in the function converted to contract and employees outside the function who are affected adversely by conversion through reassignment or the exercise of bumping or retreat rights. You ever bumped anybody's rights? You ever heard of retreat rights? See, you don't understand. These forms are certainly deceptive, and they're known as the battle of the forms, and you have a right to retreat yourself in a different manner. You're doing it to yourself. Quit treating yourself like bastards. DoD commercial activity. Any activity that provides a product or service obtainable or obtained from a commercial source. So a commercial activity is in fact a Department of Defense commercial activity dependent upon where it comes from. They can't get it from the Department of Defense, right? A business or other non-federal activity located in the United States. Enumeration at birth happens in the state. That state gladly accepts the conversion to contract that you give them by filling out the birth registration. And then they turn around and they link it to the primary account of the United States, who doesn't have a birth registry. So they took it from your house to the state house to the United States house. United. That's united. Everything is a unit. What kind of unit? A unit of one? When you look at the game Risk and you check how many armies you have, each one is considered an army. Each man is considered an army. How many troops do you have? Well, I've got an army of 12,000. Oh, you've got 12,000 men. Yeah, each one's a unit, man. Each one has their own unit. Be careful. They act upon their own discretion. And that's exactly how this system runs. So let's look at the last one, folks. Since Timmy's the only one that wants to join me on panel, greetings, Timmy. The link is still on there in case people don't want to take up my banter here and calling people pussies because they don't want to come up and talk about this stuff. Go ahead. Come on up, guys. This is all on Slate. Come on up and don't be scared. What's going on, Timmy?
What's up? What's up? Just trying to follow you here, man.
All right. Well, I've got a receipt in my hand from Neighborhood Mart that I'm going to show if I can get the screen done right here. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute here because the last couple I'm going to show you, we're going to take a little more time on it as well. So let me see if I can get this done right. There we go. Okay, I love showing receipts. Remember, I showed you the receipts that I get almost always have U.S. debit on it. I went to a place today called Neighborhood Mart that I don't go to often, and I got the receipt. And instead of saying U.S. debit, it actually says payment from primary account. So the payment came as a debit from the primary account through a linked account. That credit card can't be the primary account. It's the linked account. And this receipt is telling me I used a card as a debit and they debited from the primary account. Well, if they debited from the primary account, where are the credits that belong to this account? What happened there, Timmy? They took it from the wrong account, didn't they?
Double dip.
They didn't route it right. So I have to use this receipt to give a debt note, a promise to pay, or a draft of an order to pay, one or the other, as a negotiable instrument to relieve the debt that was placed against the United States primary account. So when they remove that debit, what happens then? This account receives the credit. Goes right back to it. Removes all debt, public and private. See, this is a private house that they converted to another house. That card is a conversion instrument, and it's got to convert. But it can only convert to the Department of Defense. It's got to go through the Department of Defense. So now we have to go back through the Department of Defense, say, hey, Bureau of Public Debt, we've got to get this taken care of. I'm not an agent. You charged it as if I was an agent. I'm not. This is called freedom of transit. You're not supposed to charge for the transit of this guy giving donations to me and then me paying this guy. It's freedom of transit. So when I gave this guy credit, instead of accepting the credits from my account, they took them from the primary account and kept the credits from my account in the banking system through the store. The store gets those credits, that's fine. But what they did was they took them from the primary account and they took credits from my account.
Mm.
That receipt shows that it came from the primary account and they deducted the same amount from my account. So where's the double ledgering? On the other side of that counter. The IRS in the United States, it's a tax ledger for the transfer. Yet they call it a transaction. So where was the property transferred? There wasn't. It was all electronic. This here, definitive paper form, that's property. That's not intellectual. This is property. I can physically hold it. I am custody of this. And they listed primary account on there. So what is the primary account? As holder, custodian, I have a duty, I have a responsibility to make sure that I'm not destroying any beneficiary. So if the United States is supposed to benefit from this, but they're not, then what happened to the interest of the United States? See, that's the beneficiary for the United States is the interest. Not the taxes, not the cost comparison, not the expenses, but the interest. And what is that interest? It's a military interest to keep the peace. Okay, let's go on to the next one. The next one is purpose. Purpose. Of money and financing. Or excuse me, my apologies, not money and financing, it's Title 31. National Defense. National Defense, Department of Defense, Office of the Secretary of Defense, Subchapter F, Secretary, Part 156, Department of Defense Personnel Security Program. Purpose. Per, same thing as par, partially, partaking, purpose, pose, position. When you pose something, literally, you position it in the sound form, or you position it on the literal form, or you pose yourself on a stage. It's your position per pose. What position are you partaking? This part updates policies and responsibilities for the Department of Defense Personnel Security Program, PSP, consistent with Executive Order as amended, Executive Order as amended, Executive Order as amended, Executive Order as amended, Executive Order, Executive Order, Executive Order as amended. 5 U.S.C. 301.
Jesus.
Now, you see why I talk about departmental regulations under 5 U.S.C. 301? Because it's clarified in the purpose that it's applicable to the Department of Defense for minimum requirements of birth registration under the Plain Writing Act. And 7532 and Section 1072 of Public Law 110-181 as amended, 15 U.S.C. 278G-3, which is trust law. Look at 15 U.S.C. 1 and 15 U.S.C. 3. They're talking about antitrust violations. 15 U.S. Code is foreign relations. Remember, we talked about relating. Every deposit is a foreign deposit, and therefore you're dealing with foreign relations in every case. 40 U.S.C. 11331, 10 U.S.C., which is military 1564, 32 CFR parts 147, 154 through 156, 50 U.S.C. 3343, 5 CFR parts 731, 731.101, 732 and 736, and HPSD 12. Homeland Security Presidential Directive 12. Homeland Security Presidential Directive, HSD or HSPD 12. Homeland Security Presidential Directive 12. 50 U.S.C. 4305, wherein you give a directive for full acquittance and discharge. You do not communicate with the lowly people. You communicate with them all the way up the line. You let them all know. Policy for a common identification standard for federal employees and contractors. The identification itself is a conversion of you as an independent being to a federal employee contractor. Policy for a common identification standard for federal employees and contractors. The states do not lay and collect taxes, duties, and imposts. The federal government does, and it is a policy for common identification standards for employees and contractors who lay other taxes, duties, and imposts by proxy through linked accounts. Again, all these links are down in the chat. When it comes to that address, we have a redress program in under the Constitution. Redress the government for grievances, and that is done through Homeland Security. So when you entered information in error into their records by giving an address, and you want to correct the record for expungement and remove it, you need to redress it. In order to redress it, you have to know what you're going to dress it in. So you can't just say, I need to correct the record and undress everything. The emperor wears no clothes and people will start laughing. Okay? Then we have the Interstate Identification Index, otherwise known as the National Fingerprint File. They are different. Some states, 27, participate only in the Interstate Identification Index. There are 24 that participate in the National Fingerprint File. Iowa is one of them. Now, if you're in one of these other 27 states and they're fingerprinting you, then they're actually participating in the National Fingerprint File. And they're doing it through interstate identification and sharing and linked accounts. Okay. So let's take a look at the Compact Council Home, the National Crime Prevention and Privacy Compact Act. Now, the Compact Act is the same thing as a contract. It's an agreement. Compact is an agreement. On October 9th, 1998, President Clinton signed into law the National Crime Prevention and Privacy Compact Act. This isn't the Privacy Act. This is the National Crime Prevention and Privacy Compact Act of 1998, establishing an infrastructure by which states can exchange criminal records for non-criminal justice purposes. Kind of like the bit, non-bit thing, right? Yeah. The compact became effective April 28, 1998 or 1999, after Montana and Georgia became the first two states to ratify it, respectively. To date, 34 states have ratified the compact. So if there's a National Crime Prevention and Privacy Compact Act of 1998 and only 34 states have signed on to it, then who's enforcing it in the other states? You are. You're the one giving the identification, you dumbasses. Excuse me. Sorry if that hurts. But what do you think about that, Timmy? Are you still with us? Looks like he walked off. But that's okay. I'm done with my presentation. And since there wasn't really a whole lot of questions up here on panel, I'm going to look through the chat real quick. Emilio's Man, greetings. Crazy Horse. Cult member 76. Yeah, we said greetings already. Top G, greetings. Yes, hit the like, share, and subscribe button, people. Don't know why this information doesn't get out. Don't know why there's only 23 watching. Of course, that's out of 2,400 subscribers, almost 2,500 now. Thank you guys. Keep sharing it. Wow, 23. 1%. So anyway, since there aren't any questions, like I said, all these links are down below. Let me double check. We got the right to follow trust property when confused with other property. That is a Harvard Law Review from 1888. We got the area office. We got what is Treasury Direct. We got definitions from the Department of Defense, National Defense. We got their purpose. We got Homeland Security. Oh, we didn't put the interstate index in there. So I will go back and I will put the Homeland Security redress and the interstate identification index links down there as well. So think about this stuff, folks. And remember, you have questions, you got to start asking. That's why I appreciate people up on the panel. I don't always have all the questions. And sometimes when people ask questions of me, I need those questions. There he is. He fell off. Falling off the wagon, falling off the little wagon. That's okay.
I was
buddy.
hanging on. I was
There you
hanging
go.
on. It's like this.
So I was just going over the things that I got to put the other two links down in the chat. What kind of questions do you have? I know you've got an inquisitive mind.
Yeah, I'm always gonna have questions for you. When you were talking about commercial activity, and you were saying you said anything that I didn't. So you said I wrote it down. Anything that I didn't make, and I go out and quote unquote buy some product or service from someone that didn't make the thing themselves. You're saying that that's commerce, and I ask, aren't you presuming that the originator is a commercial contracted organization? Right. So if they weren't, then you're not saying it's commerce, right?
Right. But since they give you your product, you go out to the store, you buy a product. Oops. You go out to the store and you buy a product. They give you the product and a negotiable instrument.
Mm.
Do you know how to negotiate it? Everybody takes it and throws it away. This is a negotiable instrument with a routing on there that shows evidence of a misappropriation. This falls under the takings clause. What they're doing is they're creating a debt against the United States. They didn't name the interest of the United States. They kept it all local at the state level. So what they did was they took credit from me, posed it as if though they were the purchaser, and then issued it as a credit for the United States, while this receipt shows there's a debit. So in order to correct that ledger, I have to show that the state took credit from this account, the 7215 account, and there was money, a debit taken from the primary account as well. This is a linked account, and this linked account shows that there's a debit. I guarantee you, when you look at the U.S. Treasury account, it too will show a debit, while the state takes credit on both sides.
Okay, so what if so two things. What if they were cash only? Same thing though, because you're saying it's military script.
Right. Federal Reserve notes are meant for advances from Federal Reserve Bank to Federal Reserve Bank by Federal Reserve agents and no other purpose. So when you gave them that Federal Reserve note, that was a promise to pay. They gave you a receipt. They fulfilled their promise to give like exchange, paper. So you got the paper, but you didn't know how to redeem it. You just threw it away.
All right, so and to be clear, again, like that's only with the folks that don't understand what's going on when they're registering their businesses, correct?
Well, it's for everybody.
Opting in, right?
It's for everybody.
See, that's what I don't understand.
See, I don't have a business, but I'm forced to conduct commercial activities as a presumption of an agent, but I'm not an agent. So I have to reconvert this because it was all done in agency. In order for me to have my property free and clear, free and clear, it has to be cleared. It's never cleared. That property that I just purchased, I threw the receipt away. The state still claims ownership. They're part custody, right? They're co-owner, co-custodian through the use of the account on this receipt that is attached to the Social Security account in order to get this bank account.
Now I hear what you're saying, but the thing that I disagree with is that those motherfuckers are never gonna show up at a court and claim that that's their property, though.
No,
You
that's why
might
you
be
have
right, but they're never gonna
yeah,
show up though and say
but
that.
that's the premise. Is they are holder, so therefore they have an interest in the property. And the only thing they hold really is that initial account, the Social Security account, that is linked to the primary account as a minor account.
But you have superior interest in that property, though.
Right. But
So
the only way I can enforce it is by redeeming the receipt to remove the product from the record. Otherwise, the store has a receipt that they sold a warehouse product, which was a military surplus. So now it's got to be declassified.
but wouldn't any jury of 12? I know you don't like juries because they're mostly, NPCs and they're not going to get it. But like you and I on separate scenarios, like I know you can go to pretty much even the average man or woman, the average jury of 12, and explain this to them, and that there would be a nullification of any of that insanity, like this 12 million Kozaks of statutes, right? And so they would all be like, yeah, obviously you bought those groceries or whatever it was, so that's yours, and you're the only one with any interest into their property, right? So wouldn't it kind of break like all that stuff, all the intricate,
The only way
intricacies?
the only way the states can get funding. Okay, so I use the Social Security account to establish a bank account to get the PayPal
Mm-hmm.
account. Those are all linked accounts. They're all custodians of records. That record is what needs to be cleared because it still shows a debt. This record right here, it shows a debt. It needs to be cleared.
That your estate owes?
No, the trust. Their trust. Again, look, it's got an address on the top. It's got an address on the top. These guys got credit. Okay. But what happened was there was a debit both on the secondary linked account and the primary account. This cannot be a primary account. Cannot be. It's linked to another account. This is a PayPal account. And they asked me to link it to another account in order to validate it. It was already linked to a bank account, which was a linked account to, again, the primary account. The primary account is in TreasuryDirect. In TreasuryDirect. And that means it's in the conversion of paper documents, definitive paper bonds, into book entry bonds. They took a book entry bond as that purchase from the card. That's a book entry as well. And they gave me a receipt as another book entry or a definitive paper bond that I can now enter into the record to correct the book entry because this definitive paper shows an error. It's showing two accounts.
You're saying this happens with every transaction between.
Yep. When I use it, when I go up to the store here and use my card in that debit machine or my card in that vending machine for the credit union, I put in checking account. I don't even have an account. It's just a PayPal account, right? So I just withdraw from checking. And when I get my funds, I've got the cash and I get receipt that says US debit. Is the cash any good? I'm not supposed to be using it. It's for advances from Federal Reserve banks to other Federal Reserve banks by Federal Reserve agents and no other purpose. Is that machine acting as an agent of the Federal Reserve? Must be. It performed.
I guess so.
Activity.
Right.
So So the commercial activity that happened is the record. Now I can turn around and use that cash, go buy, say I get $20 out of the machine. Now I got a receipt for $20 says US debit. Now I can go to the store that I'm in with that machine, go down the aisles, buy up $20 worth of stuff, get another receipt. The one where I got the money out of the machine shows a debit, a US debit. The one where I spend it at the counter shows, even like I said, even if I used cash and went to the counter with cash, I'd still get a receipt, but it would say cash. It's still going to come out as a debit on the receipt. See, anytime they create a definitive paper form that can be used as an electronic entry, look at it. It came from an electronic. So you can put it back into electronics. The only way you do that is by the error. I'm sorry, I got to correct the record. Greetings, brother.
Great. I got some questions.
Always.
I just want to ask, could you, like, all the documents that you create, why I got this echo? Hold on.
If you go to settings and then audio,
Okay, there you go.
there'll be an echo cancellation, and you can turn your volume up and down.
Okay, I got a question, Keith.
There you go.
So now, let's say those. So how will we go and redeem those receipts? Do we send them in through like some kind of 1099 process to, through the IRS?
I imagine it would be redemption through the Bureau of Public Debt to credit back to your account, or however that works. But I wouldn't do it with just a Social Security. I wouldn't do this until you have your own private trust account set up through the electronic payment system, so that once you give them the directive to convert it back to the credits, to transfer it back to your account.
So that was just so you would have to get a set up an account with a trust Treasury Direct account and get it all set up.
Not TreasuryDirect. That's already been established. What you're going to establish is an electronic payment system account with the Postal Service. That's where your electronic payment system happens. The post office.
Okay. So
yeah,
you don't. So when everybody going to getting a TDA account and getting the medallion steps, they don't need to do none of that.
No. See, the TDA is a registered account for the United States, and the United States holds an account with the post office as well. It's a fidelity account. What's fidelity? It's a peace. It's an armistice. So they already have a fidelity agreement with the post office. All we have to do is the same thing. Establish a electronic payment system account as a trust account. Keith on a little FBU trust account. And they'll give you, you get, it's just like a Facebook profile or anything else, a bank account. You're going to establish a name for it. Doesn't have to be your biological name. Nothing.
Oh, okay. I got another question. Do you need to file a UCC agreement to secure?
No.
Because your let's say you got
a UCC1 off the gate is just a notice of a lien. If
right.
You're in armistice, then why would you place a lien? UCC, again, if you're an armistice in peace, UCC is literally known as Battle of the Forms. Again, we're not supposed to be filing them documents or anything. We're supposed to establish our own private trust, and they're supposed to have faith in us, because that's what we provide, is the full faith and credit.
Okay. So no UCC, nothing.
Nope.
So we could do it all just through contract, right?
Yeah, you're essentially learning how to manipulate the contracts for your benefit, because if you don't, it's going to be a detriment.
Okay, I get
that detriment, again, it's going to the trust. So when you establish the trust and they try to tell you, well, no, this is the way the contract works, you go straight to the trust law and say, no, I've got to protect the trust. And that contract term violates the trust and opens it, exposes it to malfeasance and stuff. And I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
This contract either works in equal consideration and equal benefit like it's meant to by law, otherwise it doesn't operate at all.
Because they have to give you equal consideration, or it loses the force of law.
Right. And that equal consideration, like I said right now, is paper form. Legal tender is known as negotiable instruments. When they give you a Federal Reserve note, you can gladly accept it because they're not going to take it back and find some other form to give you. They're not going to write out a check if they're giving you cash out of the tender box, right?
Right.
So what you do is you have to turn around and convert it to a check form by pay to the order of. Flip it over on the back, make your special deposit directive. Full acquittance where no person shall be held liable in any court. And the special deposit is that you made a deposit of that instrument, that paper, and you expect the credits to be returned if they haven't already.
So do you put special deposit on the back of it on the endorsement? Some say you put when you get the remittance coupon, you sign it, you put without recourse, you put your fingerprint and all that other stuff and other UCC language on there.
Yeah, see, that's involving the UCC again. You're entering into that forum. Whereas if you're giving a directive for full acquittance and discharge, then it's removal from that forum. So you take the instrument, you flip it over, and you put special deposit on it. You attach it to the directive of the special deposit, and then you give a handwriting statement qualifying your intent of that special deposit, which is known as certification. Three documents.
So you just put, do you put without recourse on there after your signature?
No, your directive, when you write out your directive, it's going to give full acquittance and discharge. It's the same language as without recourse.
Okay, so you just put special deposit, your endorsement.
The directive, sign it, and then you attach it to the directive, and that directive is under the full acquittance and discharge, so that no person shall be held liable. As a special deposit, the financial institution it's deposited in is either required to give credits or has already given credits. So if the credits are already given, then there's nothing going to happen except the correction of the record. If they're still obligated to give credits, they'll correct the record and then push those credits through to your account.
So how do that work? Let's say I get my bank statement every month. So I just flip it over in the back, send it back, special deposit with the instructions, right? And endorse it and send it to them.
Right.
And they're supposed to recredit the account, right?
Correct.
Okay.
For any credits that are due. Again, remember, every deposit is a foreign deposit. And so if they come back and say, well, no, it was this, or this. No, it's a matter of correcting the record. That record is in error. It's showing a debit. And that debit, all debts are a debt against the United States.
Right.
And I never claimed a debt against the United States. The bank did that in their documentation, in their conversion. And so we have to get over that and realize as the saviors, we have to redeem it. And that's the saving of the United States debt.
Okay. So we put, so you endorse it and put special deposit with your instruction letter. That's it.
Yep. And that special deposit or that directive is a directive to place everything in the interest of the United States on account of the United States so that no person shall be held liable in the court, including the person making the same.
Do you put that 50 USC code in the instructions?
I would use that myself. I haven't, and understand, guys, I have not done this. This is just my comprehension of the research I've done. And again, it goes to the definition of legal tender today is non-negotiable instruments. So as long as you're doing what you believe is right and educating others and learning from others along the way and not causing controversy, then you're negotiating.
Right.
And that's
Long
all
as
it
it's in
takes.
good faith. Long as it's in good faith,
Yes,
nobody will be liable. Long as you're doing
correct.
it in good faith.
And people are up in arms in this and saying, well, no, you can't do that. And yes, you can. You just have to learn how to negotiate.
Right. It's always a pleasure, Keith. I'm always listening to you. I'm always figuring out stuff on my own, along with taking some of your information and incorporate it into my train of thought. And using, like I try to tell people, this is chess. It's just critical thinking assignments. You have to really be a critical thinker and put this information into proper perspective because, like I said before, it's all about effective communication.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's been always been my angle because I use contracts. I collect evidence. So if they try to take me to court, I already got everything. I gave them the instructions. I told them what to do. And I even told them if it's any errors, defects, or omissions in the document, please show me where it's wrong so I can cure it, so that we can both clean up this mess.
Yep.
And then
Greetings, Brother Donnell.
you know,
Yeah, it's just a matter of learning how to talk the truth. Speak the truth. This is why I tell everybody I don't let contracts get into deception and stuff because I bring the truth right from the start. So when I got involved with the emergency room over this shoulder pain and found out I had lung cancer, I went back to the first document I got from the emergency room, and it says right on the top of it, it says sales agreement. Now, if you want any payments from me connected to any accounts connected to this to this emergency room visit where the accounting was initiated, then you'll have to agree that by your own agreement says the customer agrees to make payments so long as credit is given to the customer's account. So if I'm going to take credit from my account to pay you, you're going to get the credit back. This is how it works. And it's in your sales agreement. So why are you trying to tell me I owe this bill?
right.
So any other questions, Donnell? I see you popped up. Got any questions or anything?
Well, while he figures that, can I ask you now? Or he's there. He's there. Yeah, go for it, man.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, peace and love to y'all. Yeah, no, I've been listening to you now for a little while that I recognized, and I've been hearing what you're saying, and I'm just trying to figure if, say, someone's been imprisoned for like 15 years with maybe a promise of 20 more. And we know that there was nothing but circumstantial evidence besides the fact that, what contract was there. And we know once they use the attorney, usually that's the sign that they turned over something to somebody else and didn't know that even the trial is now null and void as far as any justice was concerned. Is there any comeback from that?
Yeah, because everything is done in a matter of probate. And what it is a probate is a matter of somebody standing before the court without a will. This is why they say everybody volunteers to go to prison, because all you got to do is stand up and testify to the will. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I'm not here by my will. I was brought into existence by his will. He knew me before he formed me in the belly. Before I was cast from the womb, he sanctified me. He ordained me a prophet unto the nations. And I'm telling you, I am a foreign entity to this nation. And you've misconstrued things through that record and made a false claim. I'm sorry. I repent for my own actions in it, because I did take upon that identification. But now that I've learned and repented, I'll never touch another identification like that again. And they can't make you. They don't have any law that says you have to have identification. It's Interstate Identification Index. That's interstate commerce. That's for commercial activities only.
And so that statement would be placed in writing or what, and sent to whom?
Well, you would have to have it in your heart, brother. This is why people can't get out of prison on that precept. Those people in prison don't have this in their heart. It's got to be in your heart. You got to be able to stand before the judge and stay it without any paperwork. You got to mean business without meaning business. Can't people?
So
I feel bad.
Are you stating?
I feel bad
Are
that
you
I feel bad people are out there thinking that there's a solution for them, and it's easy. It's not. It's a matter of changing your heart. It really is. It's a spiritual warfare, and it's affected us since we were little kids.
Yeah, I get that much, and I do know about the heart and the faith in the heart and the faith in the belief and the faith in fairness and the faith in love and the faith in truth. I do know that a person has to be before they can act or before they can, go forth and demonstrate.
Yes.
What I'm not getting is if someone's caught in a situation already, are you saying that it's up to them to run into something that introduces them to their own heart?
Yes. Even if that's you,
And
if you can introduce it and talk to him about it, that's fine. But he's got to be ready themselves. They've got to be ready to stand up and do it themselves. I wasn't ready to do it until I was ready to do it. And I told the fucking attorneys to fuck off. I told the cops to fuck off. I told the judge to fuck off. I told them all to fuck off. I'm depending on him and him only from now on. And they were just stunned.
That's interesting. Thank you.
Yes. Greetings, Dre Vasco. Good to see you here. Eric, greetings. Big Low. By overstanding it first, then reading it with Black's Law Dictionary. Yeah, it's a matter of concurring with other sources and stuff to get your best discernment out of what's really going on and what's really being said. CUDR, I see you up on the back panel, but it says your device is not connected. You need to check your mic and headphones and stuff. Let's see what else. Yes, you're when the contract. See, people don't understand the way a contract works. Technically, this could be a contract. This is evidence of contract, but it's not a full contract yet. I have to take this, flip it over, put special deposit, see directive, buy benefactor, whatever I'm going to write on it, and then I've got to take another piece of paper and I've got to write up the directive, and then I've got to attach that to that, and then I've got to grab another piece of paper and write up my intent to make sure that it's clear that nobody mistakes me, and then I have to send it in. So I can take a bunch of these, put them all together over a quarter, every 3 months, stack them all up, put special deposit on the back, sign them, buy benefactor, and then attach them all to one. That's how you contract. It's contract. It's with. It means it's got to be with something else.
Can I ask you something else?
Sure.
See, I really think that there's a huge difference between like you using a card at that store and versus handing them cash, because in my opinion, if I'm holding cash, that's me as the, let's use natural person for lack of a better phrase. You know what I mean? The man. If I use cash as a man, that's with another, with a private store. Let's just say with another man that's a private little farm store, and we transfer property. Like I say that the cash, I'm putting the charge into the cash at that point. Like I know it's a military script, but like if I got it lawfully,
the physical presence though is the property. Okay, so if I go into a store in the United States and I present them with a $20 Canadian bill, what's going to happen? They're not going to accept.
This is a
They're not
private
gonna accept
store.
it because
Well, you
I have to convert it to U.S. property. That's Federal Reserve notes.
But I'm talking a private man, not a corporate store.
Yeah, I know, but even as a private man, you're holding a debt note from a U.S. corporation, and when you spend that, it creates a debt. Obligations and other securities of the United States includes Federal Reserve notes. So when you use a Federal Reserve note and they create a receipt that shows a debit, use of the Federal Reserve note shows a debt. Use of a credit card, even though it's giving credit, creates a debt. Use of a debt card, even though it creates credit, is a debt. They both work.
But wait, how I'm saying a private man. Now, if he's a cash register, you hand him $20. Let's say he writes on a paper. Let's say not even an electronic receipt. He writes on a paper. You gave me $20. How is that creating a debt? Like forget that automated system they gave you.
The paper.
He's handing you back.
It's a debt against nature because we have to use paper to prove that there's a debt or not a debt. It's a violation of conservation laws. Why would you tear down trees just to write paper when you can speak it? Even when the Bible tells us our actions speak louder than words. So why would you even need paper? The paper itself is the debt. And this is the one product that they have to maintain so heavily under the Paperwork Reduction Act.
But it's two private men transferring their property in any way that they see fit. So I have infinite capacity.
So he didn't have to use the Federal Reserve notes, did he? So he didn't have to use the Reserve notes, did he?
Of course not.
But because he did, the concept is that you got to give him equal consideration in return, which is another piece of paper qualifying the paper he gave him. So now he can make the exchange of property. See, that's third-party interference.
Well, what if he just gave me the property and didn't write me a receipt?
Well, what if you just came up and told him, hey, I just got done mowing your lawn. I want that. That was an agreement already made, right?
I agree.
Hey, dude, you want me to deliver your paper? Tell you what, if you leave me a nice pot of hot cocoa on the porch,
right,
and it snows overnight, when I come to do the papers, I'll shovel your walk. I had people leaving me gifts all throughout the year for doing lawn care and stuff. And so I ended up learning to barter and trade through that way when I was a very young kid. So despite the fact that mom and dad were bringing me up to teach me how to keep a checking account and keeping it all balanced and everything, I was still doing the shit flip on the side, still getting it under the table. You know what I mean?
It's like our conversation last time about the lemonade, and I was thinking about that yesterday, and then I thought you were going to ask me, when grandma comes over, do you charge her $1? Right? It's like that, right? Yeah. It's like it's this non. There shouldn't be a direct trade because that kind of presumes that there won't be contracts in the future, and that's not really good faith. Is that sort of along the lines of it?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Because if you're putting in data elements show there's still a debt on the record, but it came from my forefathers and you're trying to charge me for it, what the hell is that all about? Shouldn't we be clearing the debt? And we can do so righteously. It's through redemption. And like I said, Leviticus 25 verses 23 through 25 tells the whole story. And then read Deuteronomy 15 tells us we're supposed to be lenders under the nations. And if there's any debt, there's a Lord's release after 7 years. This is paying homage to Mother Nature. That's where the true debt is.
Okay. So you think am I bad and wrong if I slowly back out of this instead of just one fell swoop, just be like, doop, because I want to go like this.
Yeah, I did it in one fell swoop and quit the banking and all that and started doing research. Right. I was in research for almost 5 years before I finally opened up another PayPal account. I sold off everything I had. I went out to the mountains, did some travel around on the mountain Appalachian Trail, went down to the Ozarks, fucking come back. I'm a much better spiritual person, despite what you see on Unslaved and all the anger and wrath. You know,
Yeah.
if you'd have seen me when I was younger, I'm a totally different person, totally different man, totally different living soul. So
Good stuff, brother.
anyway,
Thanks, man.
I hope that helps everybody else. Michael Ravoda, greetings. Let's just check out the conversation real quick here. Yes, it is confusing, and everything is considered commercial. Gray wants to know what I know about Article 3, Subdivision 2, SS, Subsection 1, Court of Chancery Equity. When you're dealing with these administrative courts at the state level, there's a form AO 430. And if you look on that, it tells you the plaintiff is the defendant, or is the debtor, and the defendant is the creditor. And then it gives you blanks where you can fill that form out and place what you want on there. So you can name the case, the court, and then the judge, you name him as chancellor, and the type of proceeding is not administrative or anything like that, but equity. AO, form AO 430. And you'll see at the top, it says Supreme Court of the United States, and it's AO stands for Administrative Offices. So the state administration is regulated and supervised by the Supreme Court of the United States through the AO Form 430. And you can show it to them, hey, how come this one here says the plaintiff is the debtor and the defendant is the creditor? If that's the case, then as the creditor, you're stealing my credits by making me being afraid of being the defendant. And again, folks, the defendant is a voluntary appearance in court. So you don't have to give them credit. You can deny their credence by saying they failed service of process. That process service, that's saying that they deposited something, a financial instrument, into a financial institution. That's a deposit, known as a foreign deposit. That address proves it's foreign. It needs to be redressed through Homeland Security. I'm sorry, I'm not an agent. I'm not a resident. Resident being the resident means the only residents allowed to reside in the zone are federal, state, or municipal officers or agents whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board. And again, the Secretary of Service is responsible for all administration and operational support of the in the jurisdiction of the local board. So it is a military operation. It is military fiat, and they are supporting it. And that is the foundational support, military fiat. It comes from nowhere else.
Hey, I got a quick joke for you. It's from 1893, and I put it in the private chat. It's 5 U.S. Code 3108. It says employment of detective agencies restriction. U.S. Code notes an individual employed by the Pinkerton Detective Agency or similar organization may not be employed by the government of the United States or the government of the District of Columbia. It's two governments, and they just said it right there.
Well, and then you've got federal government too. Federal government means all entities of the government of the United States, including the United States Postal Service as a registered agent, and the Postal Regulatory Commission, who regulates all of them, including Congress. And they don't know this. They don't understand plain language, plain writing, plain English.
Thanks,
Come on, people. Got to gear up. J27 made, devices not connected. I see you in background, but you guys got to learn when you come up here. You got to make sure your devices are connected. Okay, let's see here. Stephen Grant, welcome. Now I see why my grandfather was mustered into the Union Army at 14 years. Yep, being registered in Union School, connected with Selective Service System. Yep, I did a video a while back, maybe a year ago, the Selective Service and what it is, and then I just went over it in another video here not too long ago too. The Public Education System. It's the General Education Provisions Act, and it also mentions the full acquittance and discharge, where no person shall be held liable in any court under the Trading with the Enemy Act, 50 U.S.C. 4305. Because at the age of 14, a young male student enrolled in school is considered to be a volunteer for the military service at age 14. Volunteer. Really? How do they volunteer if they don't know it? So really think about this stuff. Anyway, it's well over the hour I wanted. We're going an hour and 40 minutes, and I'm off to do other things. I appreciate you showing up, Timmy and Donnell and El King Bay. Danielle, greetings.
Shalom.
Shalom. How you doing, brother?
Tired. How about you?
Hey, same old, same old.
Oh, you got a day off.
You did? Working hard, huh?
Yeah, but the company might be getting screwed over here.
How so?
So I help run a bin store, and typically we get a truck delivery every week, and it got delayed. It's supposed to be here Monday, it got delayed, and it's now being pushed back to Thursday. We don't open till Thursday, so now we have no product for the store to open.
Yeah, I think this is going to happen a little bit more and more as we go into the summer. Remember the shipping stuff a couple of years ago because of COVID? No, it wasn't because of COVID. It's because of supply and demand and the way the things are going. Title 42 expired. All kinds of regulations are being loosened, and that means they're just not following them. And that again is because we're moving into that age where people have to learn. It's negotiable instruments. You better start learning how to write this shit down and get it to them. Otherwise, they're going to be charging you and not delivering the services.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I had my companion. They threatened her a couple years back. Said that if she didn't make these payments, they were going to deny her services. All these different fucking clinics. It's a medical association, and they were all going to deny her unless she started paying her bill. I said, here, let me write them a letter. I wrote them a letter, told them to send me a true bill, and I'd be glad to make payment. They sent me a true bill, and I said, well, I'll have to accept this for the value then because there is no value stated. There's not $1 sign on here. Nobody mentioned $sign. There's not a plus, minus, multiplication, division sign, nothing. You think I'm supposed to put this together as some kind of mathematical genius myself? I barely passed 12th grade. Look at my report card. 2 failures, 2 B's, and 2 incompletes. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe if you looked at the rest of the record, you'd see I was fucking 4.0 all the way, first grade through. So when it comes down to it, it's just a matter of learning how to educate yourself. Like I tell people, don't believe me, don't believe your neighbor, don't believe the government. It's crying out loud. Don't believe your mother. Do your research so you know. People go out of high school and they don't ever pick up another book. That indoctrination works exactly the way it's meant to.
Yeah, but people also don't realize that the deeper you go and the more you separate yourself, the more you become, how should I say this, alone. People distance themselves from you big time.
Yeah. 2,400, almost 2,500 subscribers, and I still only get 20, 30 views. You know, and that's part of because of the material I bring. There isn't a whole lot of interest. People don't think that's the problem. Their problem is more immediate right now, and they want to know how to get that CPS worker to fucking leave them alone. Well, I'm telling you. And not only is it more immediate than that, you better fucking you should have been learning this shit fucking 20 years ago. That's how immediate this is.
I had CPS appear at my doorstep one time in my entire life, and that was the beginning of COVID.
Yeah, they tried getting in my life. I voluntarily gave up guardianship of my daughter to my sister so I could get my fucking pot and all that other shit cleaned up and get my life straight. You know, this is when I started getting back with God and was getting off the meth and all that, and said, well, it's time to fix my shit. So I got my shit fixed, and then I went back to my daughter and asked her if she wanted to come home. She says, yeah, I'm ready. And Carla says, no, you're not getting custody of her again. Oh, really? So you should go look at the transcripts when I told the judge standing there trying to tell me I needed to pipe down. I said, listen, I'm tired of all the bullshit. So is my daughter. I already asked her. She wants to come home. She's ready to come home. So we all need to quit playing the bullshit and ask my daughter who she's going home with today, because that's who really determines it. No one else. Think about that. She was 10 years old. At 10, that child determines who she wants to go with. And if it's not the biological mom or dad, then they have to do some reconsideration. But if it's the mom and dad, or a mom or dad, or her mom was dead, but since dad was there, yeah, she goes back to dad because that's her choice. Biologically. That's the agricultural source. Everybody needs to get back to it. Natural actions. We've all been indoctrinated into this commercial activity and believing that's our life. You don't have to. You can learn how to make bread. Not all that fucking hard. You may not be able to eat it as much because everybody got soft and liked that Wonder Bread. Now they eat a fucking loaf of bread a day. No wonder you're fucking obese. You know, really got to get over this stuff. It's all indoctrination. It's all synthetics. It's chemicalizing yourself in an unnatural way. You are a chemical body. You have to be very aware of the chemicals you're putting in there. And when you're stuffing with synthetics, your body's not going to respond to it appropriately. It's operating on synthetics. Sure, your body will get high on the pain medication, but it's a synthetic. It's not going to destroy it or excrete it or secrete it appropriately from your body. It's going to have it has them heavy metals and things that don't break down crystal in crystal form. So again, that's your vitamins. If you're getting those vitamin supplements, try to get them in the crystal form, not the powder form, the crystal form. Your body will accept it. It's a crystal body. So anyway, I'm done with this for today. Wanted to make a presentation on the right to follow trust property, and that trust property is yourself. And you have to learn how to trust yourself, because what they're doing is they're converting everything through a merger, which is a mingling, and that is the mingling done on the words, on paper. You don't need to do it. Every time you see a piece of paper, it's a form of trust, and it's a false trust. You have the right to follow that trust property back to where it belongs, and that's your natural self. Period. Thank you for joining me today, guys. God bless. I did put the PayPal link down there for anybody that wants to share some love. Like I said, I went over the hour I wanted to, but I'm dedicated. I don't care how long it's going to take. I've been at it almost 7 years now. I'm coming up on my own Lord's release that I'm hoping to perpetuate through the system electronically to let everybody know. I'm the lender. I'm the one that gives credit to all things, and I'm the one that has the faith. You either accept that or you operate malfeasance of trust. I'm the one that gives the directives from now on. I'm the one that administrates this trust, no one else. You may have co-custody and co-ownership of certain data elements, but they will not be deceptive anymore. Period.
Thanks, Keith.
Yep. Have a good day, guys. And remember, I love you. I don't care if you love me back or not. That's not my job. That's yours. Learn love. Have a good day, everybody.
Take care.
Thank
Donnie,
you
always
much.
a pleasure, man. Cheers.